or it's actually desirable for nations to ensure a good mix of the three to be able to respond to the demands of public good. Local governments, being the governance systems at the grassroots, are therefore charged with ensuring delivery of a balanced public good. Botswana and Sweden have collaborated to host a conference to deliberate on the issues through the Botswana Association of Local Authorities, Kanabala, and the International Center for Local Democracy, ICDL. We have in studio Liene, Ledaine and Simon Härenstam, representatives from the ICDLD, actually, to discuss the conference that is here. Good afternoon and welcome to In Context.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
All right. So Sweden, right? Yes. Just in brief. Volvo, Ericsson.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and Zlatan.
And Zlatan, yeah, of course. Just try to get it right. All right.
That's the country, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So at least now we know who we are talking to.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, look, Sweden and Botswana are not from here. The history is long, the relationship is long. But now we are obviously looking at the local government space. I want to understand, maybe in brief, just how the local government works in Sweden versus Botswana to be able to have a clearer picture. Yeah.
Well, one difference is actually that the Swedish municipalities has a quite high mandate. They have they control a lot of important things for their their participants in the municipality.
Okay.
And that's the difference between a lot of different countries. So the Swedish municipality has a lot of, you can say, power to control their budget and their spending, and also how they integrate with the population in that area.
All right. Yeah. So the local municipalities have got like a stronger government, local government thing compared to Botswana?
Yes, I would say so, yes.
All right. And obviously you are working with the Botswana one. Why Botswana and the other countries you're working with?
I think that Southern African cluster, where Botswana is also included, is very important for ICLD. And we have had a long experience working with Southern African countries. And Botswana is one that has been progressing a lot in many areas. So we are really honored to be here and to actually concretely work with two municipalities of Botswana. It's Lobatse and Francistown.
That's my hometown.
Yeah, you see. Yeah. They are the two, yeah.
All right. So now, this obviously, as you mentioned, that is a Southern African kind of bloc thing. Yeah. Which countries have you picked within the region?
We have Zambia as well with us. We have South Africa with us in this particular context. But then I think that we have also worked with Namibia. But they are not in this particular human rights network that we are in, but they are in the cluster, yes.
Okay, so this cluster is looking at human rights?
Yes.
All right, so at what level does the city, in this case I'll just say the city council, because it's a municipality in other countries, but for us it's the councils. At what level do they play in human rights?
Well, our point of view is that the local government play a key role in the development and protecting human rights. But what we do in the networks is that we actually pair a Swedish municipality together with the municipality for, like example, Botswana, Zambia. And then they have a joint project, and they have a project, and they look into what area regarding human rights they want to improve. For example, it could be gender-based violence, it could be youth inclusion. So they have another, like a different type of topics. But our point of view is that the local government can do a lot of things to ensure a high degree of human rights-based approach when you're dealing with the local government.
All right. And look, mentioning some of those human rights that you just mentioned now, two of the three countries you're working with have got not such a good reputation in terms of gender-based violence, especially violence to the woman and the girl child. Is that some of the education that maybe might be useful to also help the municipals handle such issues and be able to promote better correlation between human beings?
Yes, definitely. It's one of our main maybe topics that we also have covered here in Botswana during this week. And we, like Simon says, we really try to work a lot with the key persons from the local governments that actually have this mandate to do something about the situation. We invite them to look in their current policies, what are the things there, what could be changed. And it's not just a single method, it's like the whole approach that we are looking at, what could be changed. So, and I mean, like you say, the things could always be improved, and we see that this is our third workshop that we meet together. We have been already in South Africa, we have met in Sweden, and this is our third workshop in Botswana. So we see actually improvement, so we are really happy to work with those key civil servants, and also we have politicians and also some people from civil society side.
Okay.
Yep.
So now when you talk about obviously local governments, governance becomes important in the value of human rights is from this angle, and the democracy as well. Now you look at some of the countries that you work with. Obviously governance differs there and there, but one could want to see how we would rate Botswana in terms of growth in governance towards human rights.
Well, the thing is, we as an organization doesn't really interfere in other countries. We just provide support for the projects.
All right.
We provide training, education. And for example, we work very closely to Bala organization and also other different organizations here in Botswana or Zambia. Yeah. So I think that's the key issue. We can provide support, but it's up to the local government in Botswana
to see how they implement
and make their decision. How they want to improve it.
Okay.
And I would also like to say, like for example, gender-based violence is a problem in many countries, also in Sweden, but it's different levels. So I think it's a joint project. That's a key issue. You have Swedish municipality that could have a problem with gender-based violence, and they're working together with the municipality, for example in Botswana, to see how they can jointly improve it and make it a better world, a better municipality for their citizens.
Okay, so now you obviously municipalities have got a role to play from here. The municipality run from the basic education in primary schools all the way to the junior secondary schools, where they have a hand in trying to also educate the young people. I don't know if education in this case can also be measured within the human rights that you focus in.
Yeah, this is actually a tricky question to answer, whether or not it could be measured. But I think that we kind of would like to see that there are some elements maybe of human rights education already at the early age. And as we talked during our workshop here or conference, that it starts at home, that's where the first kind of baby steps of this education is already laid. So yeah, definitely. We think that it could be a good idea to have it more in the school system, yes. Okay,
so now one would obviously want to know that basically we've talked about one of the challenges, gender-based violence, but which other challenges can exist within municipalities that also needs to be looked at in terms of either in Sweden or here or wherever to make sure that there is actually a balance in the decentralization processes?
Well, I think one key issue is that you're always in almost every society, you have different groups that are in some way could be excluded, or discriminated. And I think that's the key issue, to have a look at each municipality and see, like for a human rights-based approach, have a look at how does this decision affect our citizen. For example, regarding housing, social security, education, and also not only gender-based violence, it could be gender equality. And that's also a key issue, because what we can see is that if you have a better gender equality, you have a lot of improvement in the society, and that's very important for us as an organization.
Yeah, it's a lot of benefits for the society, yes.
Okay. All right, so obviously there's another thing that Botswana is catching up to and catching up very well, which is care for people with different abilities or disabled people, right? The human rights have always, in history anyway, not necessarily now, have always been looked at as secondary to anybody's human rights. Do you have a bit of a training and alignment on the conference around inclusion of actually people with different abilities?
Yeah, well, we could say that also about inclusion, that's our another core area that we at the ICLD really look. And we talk a lot about equity, like not only gender equality, but also about equity as a bigger concept. And that's where the vulnerable groups come in. And we haven't had like a specific training, but somehow this inclusion is mainstreamed through all the things we do at the conference these days. So, and I think also that we always try to talk about not only the mainstream society, but also the, like you mentioned, the disadvantaged people or other minority groups that could be in question.
Okay, so then I guess then the fluidity then just flows into balance of everyone. You mentioned youth inclusion, right? When it comes to decentralization or just local governments, the youth participation, not that they're not allowed in, but youth participation is a little bit slow, especially in the southern part of Africa. What can be done, or what are you playing as a role to try and see the value of including the youth?
Yeah. I think it's an excellent question, because we have the same problem in many countries. One thing is that you need a lot of youth to be included, and then find the right method. And for example, we have a couple of municipalities that are working on like a youth parliament, you know, to develop a youth parliament when you can actually include the youth in an early stage in the decision making, so they can actually feel that they actually can influence the decisions that the municipality are making. And I think it's very important that they actually can, you know, do it, not just to be listened at, they can actually influence the decisions. So we have municipalities in, for example, Botswana, South Africa, and also Zambia, that are working on different forms of youth inclusion. And I think the key issue is to look at the culture in the country, the structure of the country, and then trying to find a way to combine, you know, this in the traditional or in the structure you have in the country to improve it.
Can I add something?
Okay.
Yeah. No, I just want to add that it also is a lot about the local level again, because I think that in Botswana there is a big generation coming up of young, strong people, and like you say, it could be youth parliaments and forums, but also to look for other ways of how to participate. Maybe they are more on social media, maybe they could be gathered in some other forums, because in Botswana, the same as in Sweden, young people are looking for other ways of participation. So I think that in this sense, these partnerships also are very helpful, because then they can exchange experience with each other and learn of new methods and new ways of participation.
All right. So I do hope that you do touch on issues of unemployment and also business growth as well.
Yeah, it comes up, and I think it's a very important. It has a very important role, and I think that's the reason many municipalities, because they need economic growth to have a budget to spend on social issues, for example. So I think but they have chosen different paths to integrate with local business, for example. But it's a very important part of it, and I also think because the private sector is a very important part in the municipality in a lot of countries. So you actually need to include them, because otherwise, if you just change the other part, you won't really see a big change in the society or the municipality.
All right.
So the private sector is highly important, absolutely.
Okay. We've been seeing a lot of a pickup on something called PPP or Triple P, which is public-private partnerships. And they also obviously are going to have a bit of a finger within the governance structures of the local municipalities. I don't know if that's something that you also touch base on?
Not so much, I would say, But as Simon says, it is important. We definitely, maybe we hope we could work on it in upcoming workshops, because we have a next one planned in Zambia, and maybe then we could also look at this aspect. But I think that our main kind of focus is on those key persons working in the local governments on local level, and then, like you say, all the partnerships they can partner up with, and we will look into it basically, but it hasn't happened so much yet.
All right. So now let's go into the conference. Obviously, you have something happening in Botswana. Tell us about it in brief.
Yeah, well, this week we have just rounding up the conference. We have been going on for one week now in Gaborone, and it's a human rights conference. We have participants. It's about 50 to 60 participants from Botswana, Zambia, South Africa, and Sweden. And the topic has been how to improve human rights at the local level, but also the gender issue, about gender equality. And that has been the topic. So I think it's an excellent way actually to bring people together from different cultures, different backgrounds, but they are all working at a local level, and they can jointly see how they can improve them and exchange experiences and also knowledge, you know, because we can learn a lot from Botswana and we can learn a lot from Zambia, and they can learn from Sweden. And I think that's the exchange is the key to make successful partnerships. Yeah.
All right. And you did mention there's another one coming up, another workshop coming up. Maybe tell us about it as well.
Yeah, this will be actually the final one in Zambia. It's planned by the end of September sometime. We haven't decided yet. And then our kind of idea is to bring in BALA, maybe a little bit more, Botswana Association of Local Authorities, because we see them as a strategic organization, an actor to help us to spread, disseminate results here in Botswana, but we also cooperate with similar organizations in South Africa, SALGA, and in Zambia as well, ELGAS. And we also hope that Zambian will kind of give us those maybe good examples and some also practices that could be could be spread in African context. It doesn't have to necessarily be only in Botswana, it could be in these countries, but also in other countries. That's our idea. But it's also that this is just one kind of part of it, because the partnerships that they are partnering up will continue for maybe one more year at least.
Right.
So yeah, so it's not the end, but it's the final, let's say, learning seminar in Zambia. Yeah.
All right. I think in closing then, let me give Simon this chance to just tell us the good balance or the good mix of obviously all these key things, which is democracy as well as getting the municipals to work together. How valuable is it and how can people take it forward in terms of understanding it?
Well, I think it's highly valuable, and I think, as I said, the local government has a key role to improve the life of their citizens. And I think that's the core of our work. You know, we want to, together with our partnerships in different countries, we want to improve the life of citizens in Sweden, Zambia, Botswana. And we want to, you know, just highlight, because if you include them in the decision process in your municipality, if you have a view of human rights-based approach when you make decision, you actually improve the life of your citizens, and actually that makes them happier, you know? So it's a good circle. It's improved the life for everybody, and it's a good way to have that approach when you're trying to develop your municipality, regardless of which country you're in.
All right. And your last word?
My last word would be that it all starts at the individual level. So that's why we focus there. But we also want that the municipalities get stronger and like you say, can cater better to their citizens.
All right. Thank you very much, Leanne and Simon, for your time. Are you coming straight from Sweden or you stay here?
We'll stay here for some more 2 days, and then we are heading back. Yes.
All right, when you do travel, have a safe journey.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks so much.
All right. That marks the end of our conversation with Simon as well as Leanne from Sweden. We're talking about, obviously, the local municipalities, how to balance democracy, governance, and human rights.